Good morning. I'm Senator Melanie Griffith, and just really excited today to welcome you to Let's Talk February 4th, 2023. We have a information-packed session planned for today with two incredible presenters. Before we get started, I want to make sure that you all meet my incredible team that is working in Annapolis and connecting constituents with resources and helping me do what I do. So I'll ask them each to introduce themselves and then we'll get started.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Letitia Beal. I'm Senator Griffith's Chief of Staff.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Karen White. I'm the Legislative Director for Senator Griffith.
Thank you both. And so, as you all may have heard, I have changed roles in Annapolis. I'm now the chair of Senate Finance and really excited to be covering a lot of new issues this session. And so if you haven't had an opportunity, please visit the Maryland General Assembly website and definitely reach out to us if we can be of service. This is really an important topic that we're going to be covering today. We entitled this session, Let's Talk About Financial Empowerment. A few years ago, when I came to the Senate of Maryland, I really engaged with a new program, actually through Senate President Bill Ferguson. I learned about the Maryland Cash Campaign. Senator Ferguson is a big supporter and had legislation in that year to increase funding for financial assistance for Marylanders. And that's really where I got introduced to the program and the services they provide. So we're really excited today to have two guests that are going to share information about some financial resources available to Marylanders. They are Megan Bautista and Tonea Moore. I hope I did justice to those names. If not, I'll apologize and they'll correct them when they introduce themselves. To tell you just a little bit about our presenters, Megan is the program manager for tax partnerships. She supports CASH's statewide network of free tax preparation program partners. She provides them with tools and training they need to help clients and the community reach financial stability by leveraging the tax time moment. Megan also contributes to the development and implementation of a variety of partner and volunteer training needs and assists with the implementation of the Maryland Community Fellows Program. She received a BA in Sociology and African Studies from Oberlin College, and she completed a financial social work, I love that, didn't social workers, woohoo, certificate program at the University of Maryland School of Social Work, and became a certified financial education instructor with the National Financial Educators Council. She's from the Bronx, New York, and she and her partner, Rachel, have called Baltimore their home since 2017. She says her favorite part of the job is the opportunity to work with folks who come from similar cultural and socioeconomic backgrounds, and more importantly, helping people achieve their financial goals, improve their overall financial fitness, and experience a sense of economic empowerment with their finances. So welcome, Megan. We're also going to hear from Tonea Moore, who is the Senior Policy Manager for the Cash Campaign of Maryland. And she brings her experience in intergovernmental relations and public policy to the organization. She has an extensive background working in various positions in the Maryland General Assembly. And prior to joining CASH, she worked as Chief of Staff in the Office of Delegate Stephanie Smith. She obtained a BA in philosophy from Morgan State University. I see some Morgan folks, and her MPA with a concentration in public policy from the University of Baltimore. She currently resides in Baltimore City with her fiance and a dog. And she says her favorite part of her job is working with a dynamic team who truly cares about promoting economic advancement for low to moderate income families in Maryland. Thank you both for being here. You now have the Zoom room. Good morning.
Thank you so much for having us. I am going to share my screen now, and you'll tell me if it's working. Should be good to go. I see thumbs up. So thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. You made us sound so much cooler and brilliant than we actually are. No, I'm just kidding. But really, thank you for that introduction. As Senator Griffith said, my name is Megan Bautista. I'm joined by my wonderful colleague, Tanea Moore, and we're here representing the Cash Campaign of Maryland. And we're here to talk to you today about financial empowerment and some options for Marylanders, particularly in PG County as well, to improve their financial well-being and boost their financial.
I think because people want people to come out, you know, but.
I'm going to mute that person. Yep. All right. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you have questions throughout the presentation, just a quick housekeeping note, feel free to drop them in the chat and I'll do my best to get to them at the end of my speaking portion. Okay, here I go. All right, for those of you who do not know, the Cash Campaign is a nonprofit organization. We're headquartered here in Baltimore City. The cash in our name stands for Creating Assets, Savings, and Hope. Our mission is to promote the economic advancement of low to moderate income Marylanders here in Baltimore, but also throughout the state of Maryland with the help of our partners. To learn more about us, you can visit our website, www.cashmd.org. Got lots of great stuff up there. One of the ways that Cash accomplishes our mission is by offering free financial services and programs to low to moderate income Marylanders. We offer free tax preparation services, which I will talk more about at length throughout this presentation. We offer free financial education workshops, free screenings for public benefits, free financial coaching and financial planning services, and we host the region's largest free financial fitness fair, Money Power Day. Prince George's Community College and PG Cash Campaign also host a similar event called Money Explosion. So be sure to check that out in your area. Just a quick shameless plug for that. And I should mention that these are just our services for clients. Cash also works with organizations and practitioners to bring the same services and programs to their population, and also advocates for policies that improve the financial well-being of Marylanders, which Tanea will talk more about soon. Perhaps you've heard the phrase that there ain't no such thing as a free lunch, but I am here to tell you that Cash's free tax preparation is the real deal. We operate under the umbrella of the IRS Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, or VITA for short, which means, among other things, that we adhere to strict standards of conduct and we all must pass a volunteer ethics certification exam. Everyone who prepares taxes must also pass tax law certification exams, and all of these exams are taken annually to ensure that everyone involved in the program is informed about relevant updates and changes to the tax law that may affect taxpayers. To qualify for our services, individuals and families must have made less than $60,000 or less last year. Okay. The $60,000 limit actually comes from the income limit for the Earned Income Tax Credit. Many of our clients qualify for and receive the Earned Income Tax Credit when they file their taxes. And what the EITC is essentially, here in the US, the federal government taxes workers on their income and keeps a percentage to pay for public services. Those are taxes, we know what those are. And if you don't make much money, we know that those taxes that are taken out can really add up. And that's especially true for families with children and low-income workers. So the Earned Income Tax Credit provides relief to low-income workers at tax time. If you qualify, it lowers the amount of taxes that you're required to pay. And it is also a refundable tax credit, which means that if it's worth more than you owe in taxes, you get the rest of that money back in your tax refund. The Earned Income Tax Credit is the most effective anti-poverty tool that we have in our toolbox to date. Annually, hold on a second. Well, I'm going ahead of myself there. Annually, the EITC lifts millions of families out of poverty, millions of children out of poverty also. And it has been tied to signs of better infant health, higher rates of high school graduation and college attendance, and increased rates of employment, particularly among underrepresented groups like single moms. And so many more, and there are just so many more positive societal outcomes for the EITC. Tax credits like the EITC make up a large portion of our clients' refunds, along with things like the child tax credit. But to receive the Earned Income Tax Credit, you must file a tax return first. And that's where the Cash Campaign and our work comes in. So here is a sort of a look at our footprint last year. Last year, Cash and our VITA Coalition partners prepared a total of 13,211 tax returns, resulting in over $27.8 million in federal and state refunds by the end of tax season. Cash and our partners also returned over $11 million in federal and state earned income tax credit and $6.6 million in the recently expanded child tax credit to Maryland taxpayers, saving them an estimated $3.3 million in tax preparation fees through the service. And occasionally we get the question, why taxes? There is so much stigma, understandably, but if we believe that if you properly harness the power of the tax time moment, you can accomplish a lot through tax preparation. To start, one of our founding fathers, Ben Franklin, once said, "In this world, there is nothing certain except death and taxes." Not to be morbid, but tax season really is an inescapable part of our lives. So we believe that it's our job to do our part to leverage our expertise and our knowledge to support our community through this annual complicated ritual. In addition, we also help clients access pandemic benefits, such as the stimulus payments, which, as you may know, were determined on a tax return. We help people access tax credits like the EITC, which I just spoke about, and add a little additional financial padding to their reserves. We provide referrals to programs and services, additionally, while at our tax sites that can help our clients make ends meet and improve their financial security. And I'll talk a lot more about those later. We can help clients reach major financial goals by filing their taxes, right? Clients who are preparing for home ownership, for instance, need tax records to do so. And although I'm not an expert in this, I met with a group last year in Baltimore County that informed me that you need to demonstrate tax compliance in order to be sponsored for a green card and for other naturalization processes. So that's just another one of the reasons why we think tax prep is such an important intervention to have in our community. We also, like I mentioned, save people millions of dollars annually by helping them avoid paid tax preparers. And we protect them from predatory scammers who are going to take advantage of people at tax time, who either lack expertise or have ulterior motives behind offering this service. So that is the why behind our work. What kinds of tax returns can we prepare? Many different kinds. It's probably easier for me to tell you what we can't do. But for those of you wondering what we can do, we can help if you have received the Form W-2, which would indicate more or less that you're working as an employee and that you've had taxes withheld. We can also help if you're self-employed or an independent contractor or participating in the gig economy, a freelancer, if you have a side hustle, as we like to say, whatever you call it, we can help you with that too. We can prepare returns with itemized deductions, which is for taxpayers who are seeking to maximize their tax savings and take something beyond the standard deduction for their filing status. We can prepare returns for people with health insurance from the marketplace, also known as Obamacare. And I have an asterisk here next to the ITIN holders because there are certain organizations in our coalition that specifically offer ITIN application and renewal services, but many do not provide that service. However, all of our sites can work with anyone who is income eligible who already has an ITIN. And for those of you who don't know what ITIN is, that's Individual Tax Identification Number, and it's used in lieu of a Social Security number by typically recently arrived people who are not eligible for a Social Security number, and much more. So these are the documents that we believe are relevant to the preparation of your return, but these are certainly a list of things that we would expect to see and demand to see prior to your appointment or during your appointment. This list might not necessarily be exhaustive, especially if you're itemizing your deductions or if you are self-employed, but generally speaking, and like I said, certainly for our program, you will need your Social Security cards for yourself and all dependents and your spouse, photo ID for yourself and your spouse, the W-2s for all of your jobs worked in 2022, and all 1099 forms for any other income. Pretty much anything that says important tax document. I know that it seems obvious, but believe it or not, we will have clients get through their appointments and then be like, hey, I remember I had something on my table at home in my kitchen that said important tax document. Should I have brought that? We're always thinking, yes, you really should have. Wish I had known this sooner. So anything that says important tax document, please bring that. If you're self-employed, a log of your income, expenses, and your mileage would also be required. It's helpful to bring a prior year tax return and then your banking information if you would like to receive a refund via direct deposit. So Cash has several partners operating in the Prince George's County area, and each program will have their own protocol for how they're operating, whether it is a drop-off site or a traditional in-person program, whatever their own days and hours of operation may be. They have specific locations and their own specific appointment scheduling protocol. And right now, what I can say is that free tax preparation will be available in Langley Park, Oxon Hill, Capitol Heights, and possibly in Largo as well. But all of that is still sort of TBD at this moment, to be determined at this moment. But we anticipate going live with the full list of our statewide partners soon. And if you just check back on our website, www.cashmd.org, you'll be able to access all of the information about free tax preparation services in PG County. All right. The most important thing to know is that the filing deadline this year is Tuesday, April 23rd, 2023. And that is as of 2/2/2023. I want to be clear that in the past, this date has changed or has been subject to change. So as of the time of this presentation, the due date for federal and state income taxes is April 23rd. So we get this question a lot. Should I file my taxes? And there are some reasons, even if you do not have a filing requirement, that it might be a good idea to file. I always like to think of like what compelled someone to ask this question, or what is going on in someone's head. And I like to think that maybe they drove over a giant pothole on their way to work and they thought for a moment, I'm not going to file my taxes, man. This is not worth my trouble, because they're mad. And I totally get that. But like I said, there are really so many benefits to filing your taxes. It can help unlock so many opportunities and open so many doors for you. For one, you can avoid prison time by filing a return if you're legally required to do so. So that's really important, is making sure that you are compliant with your tax agencies if you have a filing requirement. If you have had any taxes withheld from your income already, you may actually be able to get those funds back when you file. So that's another compelling reason, is to recoup some of those taxes that you already had withheld. You may qualify for various tax deductions, adjustments, and credits, such as the earned income tax credit, which we discussed is refundable. So that could be money back into your pockets. And most importantly, filing taxes is an important part of the processes in place for growth and reaching certain goals. Like I mentioned, buying a home, or applying for a certain immigration status, or expanding your business, whatever the case may be, tax records are such an important part of that process as well. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, let's just imagine for a moment that for whatever crazy reason, you'd rather pay someone to prepare your taxes than work with our organization. I wanted to give you all some advice for how to choose a tax preparer in any event. Our hope is that you will use our service and save that money. But in the event that you choose to work with a paid preparer, there are some best practices and some tips in the biz. So the first thing that we want to suggest is that you research. Make sure that you confirm that your preparer is qualified and reputable. You can visit the state's Department of Labor website to see the list of registered tax professionals. And you can also visit the IRS's website and the Better Business Bureau for more information about the repute and qualifications of your tax preparer. You want to make sure that they are upfront with you about their fee structure, and you want to especially make sure that they're not trying to charge you a percentage of your refund or anything shady like that, because that might indicate that they are motivated to prepare an inaccurate return to yield a greater refund and therefore a greater payout for them. So be mindful of their pay schedule. If they say that they can get you the biggest refund in Maryland, or offering some sort of gimmick or a promo, run the other way so fast. That is usually a red flag. I would say always a red flag. It would be great if your tax preparer provided some sort of financial education while explaining your taxes to you, and just making sure that you understand what went on in your return, because ultimately you're responsible for what goes on there. And so making sure that you understand it is very important. And then lastly, you want to make sure that they're willing to identify themselves as a tax preparer and report their PTIN, which is their tax preparer identification number, or paid preparer tax identification number. And if they're really not willing to do that on your tax return, then that's a red flag as well. Okay, so if you'd like to prepare your own taxes this year, I have some tips for you as well. I recognize that this is becoming increasingly popular as an option. So my first suggestion is that you save money by using free file software. And so the IRS has the free file program with multiple software offerings. Each software has its own set of eligibility requirements as well as free features. You don't want to be at the final step of filing your taxes when you get a sudden alert that you're going to have to pay $50 because you need a specific form. And so making sure that you research the right software for you based on what forms you're going to need or schedules is a best practice here. If you can avoid it, make sure to not prepare your taxes over a public Wi-Fi network or an otherwise insecure connection. So that's the library, that's the Dunkin' Donuts or the Starbucks. I wouldn't recommend preparing your taxes in places like this. And the reason is because you're entering your social security number and your banking information and all sorts of sensitive information about yourself. And you just don't want to risk that being accessed by any sort of malicious, shady hackers or anything like that. Another option is facilitated self-assistance, or FSA, which is offered by certain programs, and it's an opportunity for highly motivated and technologically competent taxpayers who feel pretty confident that they can manage preparing their own taxes, but would really appreciate the guidance or quality assurance of a professional. They're able to prepare their taxes on their own and then have someone review them, a professional review them. So it's pretty cool. And lastly, it's really important to know when to throw in the towel and call a professional. I am going to find that person and mute them. Okay. So yes, know when to call a professional is really important. Do not try to figure something out if it's too complicated. There are certainly many things that a YouTube video can teach you nowadays. I think my brother was able to fix a part of his car using YouTube. But taxes is really not one of those things. So do not wing it when it comes to your taxes, and know when to call a professional is our last bit of advice when you're preparing your own taxes. Okay, so just a word of advice for people who, let's just imagine that we're already way down the road here and you've already filed your return and now you owe taxes. Now what? This is a question we get a lot. So my first bit of advice is to take a deep breath because this can feel really overwhelming to people. We have been bombarded with images of people from all walks of life being carted away to serve time for tax-related crimes in popular culture. And we've heard horror stories from family members and neighbors and people in our community whose taxes got messed up. And so when the time comes to file and you end up owing money, it can be a complete and total shock to the system. And we get that. But I'm here to tell you that it is okay and that there are things that you can do to make this process easier, digging yourself out of that hole easier, and to prevent it from happening in the future. So first things first is it's important to figure out what happened and why you owe that money. So that goes back to the piece of you're working with a tax preparer, is knowing that they will explain to you what happened, especially if you owe money, is really important. You want to get to the bottom of things. It could be something very simple and that you can't actually change. Like maybe your child simply aged out of being an eligible dependent and you may need to adjust your tax withholdings, or maybe there is something actionable. Maybe you're self-employed and you were charged additional self-employment tax, or maybe your employer isn't withholding sufficient taxes. Whatever the case is, you want to know what's going on, and you won't know what steps you need to take or what you can take until you know what caused you to owe. In any event, if you have a job that you receive a W-2 for, then you at one time filled out a W-4 and indicated how much in federal taxes you wanted withheld, and you also would have done so on a Maryland state form. And these forms can be updated with your human resources or payroll department, or sometimes through software that your company uses for payroll processing like ADP. And so, you can adjust your withholdings and have more taxes withheld. Withholding more taxes from your pay is one way to ensure that you won't owe as much come tax time, but I want you to recognize that there is a relationship between tax withholding and your take-home pay. And what that means is the more taxes you have withheld from your paycheck, the less you owe when you file taxes, but the less you bring home in your paychecks as well. So I have a colleague who refers to tax refunds as an interest-free loan to the government, which always makes me laugh. So you have to decide if you can afford to have less in your take-home checks than you currently do, or if you'd rather keep things the way they are and put money aside throughout the year when and where you can to pay your taxes that you owe later, instead of letting the government hold on to it and give it back to you later, which is what a tax refund is. If you are self-employed, I want to encourage you to make estimated tax payments to the IRS and to the state Maryland Comptroller. Depending on your business's finances, you may actually be required to make estimated tax payments. But more importantly, the US is a pay-as-you-earn tax system, meaning that the IRS and state and local taxation agencies want their taxes as soon as possible, as soon as you earn that money, pretty much. The most popular schedule for making estimated tax payments is quarterly, but you can make them out as often as you want, and you can do it via paper check, direct debit from your bank account, or pay by credit card for a small fee. Lots of options. You can use this time to get organized. Once again, especially if you're self-employed, take this time to make a folder in your filing cabinet for your tax documents, or a spreadsheet, whatever you prefer if you're more tech-oriented, to better track your income and business expenses and what have you. And lastly, explore applying for or leveraging certain tax credits that you might be eligible for, especially refundable ones. For instance, there's this student debt relief tax credit here in Maryland, which is a great option for Marylanders with student loans. There's also education credits for college students and lifetime learners, savers credits for people who contribute to their retirement, and more. So explore maybe getting some qualifying and applying for or receiving some tax credits. So on the flip side, you have filed and you're receiving a refund. So now what? I'm going to say again, take a deep breath. And the reason I'm saying that is because we know from experience that the tax refund is oftentimes the largest single injection of cash into our clients' lives every year. Many of them are budgeting specifically around this time. They're waiting for their refunds to come, and they already know what they're going to do with it, which we respect, but we still like to share some of our options for how to make the most of a tax refund. So for one, saving. Did you know that more than 50% of Americans don't have $400 saved for an emergency expense? I hear that statistic touted often, and the proportions change, but it's always $400. And I think that's such a small portion of the average tax refund that I see. And so I'm automatically inclined to think a tax refund can be used to establish an emergency fund if you don't already have one. If you do have one, then it can be put toward a larger savings goal for things like buying a car, going back to school, homeownership, what have you. Also, you can buy a Series I US savings bond with your tax refund, and the interest rate for those bonds is actually over 6%. I recently checked my savings account interest rate, and it is nowhere even close to 6%. So this is a really great option for people who might not have traditional savings or investment vehicles accessible to them. The tax refund can also be used to pay off debt or pay bills and escape that debt spiral, or just even catch up on your bills or cover a major household expense. I said this before, but it might be worth looking into adjusting your income tax withholding if your refund is actually too big and you find that you're struggling to make ends meet throughout the year. It might be beneficial to have less withheld from your paychecks if you're receiving a huge refund, and get some of that money steadily throughout the year instead to help you out month to month. And then lastly, working with a professional. So this could be a great time to meet with a financial coach or a financial planner to discuss developing or refining your budget or investing those funds. So those are some suggestions that we have and how to use your tax refund to grow financially. Another way that you can save your funds, if you don't have a savings account or a bank account in general for that matter, is by opening a Bank On certified bank account. Bank On Maryland works to connect consumers to safe and appropriate financial products and services. So you can see here the accounts, I don't know why it keeps doing that. The accounts are $5 or less a month, and they have no unpredictable fees, things like overdraft, insufficient funds fees, et cetera, are not present in these accounts. And I recently learned that the average person without a bank account will spend over $40,000 in their lifetime on check cashing and related service fees because they do not have a bank account. So having a bank account is one that is appropriate for you too, is another way to boost your financial power. And you can get connected to a Bank On certified account through our website and also at our free tax sites throughout the city. Cash's financial capability programs and services in-house are working with a financial coach through Trust Plus to reach financial goals. We also offer consultations with certified financial planners. I mentioned earlier the public benefits screening, and we use this particular software called Earn Benefits Online, and also free financial education workshops hosted on Cash Academy. A little bit about our financial coaching and planning. So financial coaching is going to be a great option for people who are working on specific financial goals. For example, I want to save $600 for a down payment on something, or I want to pay off my $1,000 of debt, something like that, that speaks to more habitual sort of financial habit building. A financial coach is a great resource for that. This relationship can be ongoing and can continue until you feel ready to terminate the relationship. As far as financial planning goes, it's a bit different. These are consultations with certified financial planners. So these are finance professionals who are able to give expert advice on things like investing, homeownership, college funding, wills and estate planning. I don't know why my slides just keep advancing on their own. And all sorts of deep dive, personal, complex financial topics are that the financial coaches won't work with you with the financial planners will work with you. And so our certified financial planners are providing 1 to 2 consultation sessions for Cash's clients pro bono. And you can learn more about that by visiting our website, cashmd.org/financial coaching to sign up for either of these programs. Public benefit screening. So I see that the title is wrong here. Please forgive me. This is supposed to be about referrals to public benefit screenings. So Cash has case managers that can screen you and determine your eligibility for various public benefits, things such as utility and energy assistance, nutrition assistance, as you can see here, supplemental nutrition assistance program, which is the term for food stamps, and so much more. The software that we use shortens and simplifies the application process by providing a one-stop portal for over 22 plus different benefits programs. So this is a great program for people who are having trouble getting by month to month, as they may qualify to receive local, state, or federal benefits. And they can find that out without having to run around the city. I don't know about you, but here in Baltimore, the benefits agencies are kind of scattered. There are some that are in North Baltimore, some in Central, some over West, and so on. And so someone who's seeking to apply for these benefits would have to run all around the city, arrange for childcare, take off of work. Just really, it would be very disruptive to their lives. And so the goal of this program is to minimize those disruptions and also provide an expert in the case manager to help make sure that folks are seeing this through, because they can get lost in the process, if you will. Cash also provides free financial education workshops. There are recordings of workshops as well as live workshops available, and they cover a range of topics such as how to track your spending and create a budget, how to build or improve or repair your credit, different debt repayment strategies and tools. There is stuff on there about cryptocurrency and financial technology, which is really popular right now, home ownership and public benefits and all sorts of things for anybody, and also resources for small business owners. I wanted to show you what the Cash Academy looks like for this month. I was only able to include the first 2 weeks here, but you can see that there are various classes being offered on a range of topics provided all throughout the state. And so if you just visit Cash Academy, you'll be able to access this. In addition to the live classes, Cash Academy has recordings of previous financial education webinars as well. Some of these are recorded in American Sign Language, and some of them are also in Spanish. So that's we're really glad to have those up on our website. Next up, I'm going to talk a bit about the Save for College program. It's just an opportunity that I wanted to make sure you're all aware of, which is that Marylanders now have the opportunity to receive $250 or $500 towards future education expenses through the Save for College state contribution program with a Maryland 529 college investment plan account. So the account is designed to help lower to middle income families in Maryland save money for higher education. And from January 1st through May 31st, eligible individuals can apply for a $250 or $500 contribution with MCIP. 15 of 50 states offer a 529 match program. And to qualify, you can see the income limits here. So if you made $49,999 or less as an individual, or about $75,000 or less as a family, your minimum contribution is only $25. So for $25 as an initial investment into this education plan, the state will contribute $500. It's a really great opportunity to invest in the future of your child's education. For more information, you can visit the maryland529.com/save4college to enroll and just to get more information. And the deadline for that is actually May 31st. So take your time, but don't delay. And with that, I am going to pass the mic to my colleague, Tanea, to sort of close us out talking about our policy work.
Thank you so much, Megan, for sharing all of CASH's information and resources. I just have some quick points to make. I can wrap my stuff up in 5 minutes so that we can save time for questions. So first, CASH co-leads a tax coalition, Tax Credits for Maryland Families. We lead this organization with CASA and also the Maryland Center for Economic Policy. And we are a coalition of organizations and community members who are dedicated to advocating for, like Megan said earlier, tax credits such as the Earned Income Tax Credit and the Child Tax Credit. One of our main missions is to make sure that every single individual and family who qualifies and who are eligible for the EITC, as we call the Earned Income Tax Credit, and the CTC, the Child Tax Credit, actually know about it. We find that each year there's money left on the table because families either do not know about the tax credits, they didn't realize that they qualified, or they didn't file taxes. And we want to stop that. We want to make sure that people are aware of these tax credits and can also take advantage of the tax credits to help support them and their families. So Maryland took a really big step forward in 2021 in the Relief Act by expanding the state EITC to include thousands of workers who were previously left out. However, if the Maryland General Assembly does not act this legislative session, then this tax credit along with the child tax credit will expire, and we do not want that. So the child tax credit is one of the most important ways that we can combat childhood poverty. We found from some of our clients that families were able to use the extra funds from the child tax credit to either afford food, afford stable housing, afford medical expenses, childcare expenses. We want to make sure that our Maryland families can continue to qualify and know about and claim these tax credits. We do not want them to expire. We are very thankful for Governor Wes Moore for making the child tax credit and the Earned Income Tax Credit some of his priorities for this legislative session. He's introducing the Family Prosperity Act of 2023. However, our coalition will continue to work with the administration and members of the Maryland General Assembly to make sure that strong versions of these legislations are passed. We want to make sure that we can reach as many families as possible. But in order to continue to do this, we really need more community voices, and this is where you can help. You can join our coalition, you can attend our coalition meetings, and share your stories. Our website is taxcreditsformdfamilies.org. I'll drop that in the chat. You can either share your stories if you have received the Earned Income Tax Credit or Child Tax Credit in the past, or if you know someone who has received it, please encourage people to share their stories. You can talk to your legislators about the importance of the Earned Income Tax Credit and the Child Tax Credit, what it means for your family and families within your communities. And please stay connected with us. Megan mentioned earlier, our website is www.cashmd.org. We have newsletters that you can sign up for. One of them is a general cash newsletter, but for the policy team specifically, we have an advocacy newsletter. And our advocacy newsletter highlights legislation that cash supports, we will support. And we always just want to hear from the community. What types of things, what types of policies should we be advocating for? So again, please stay connected with us. And the biggest thanks to Senator Griffith and her amazing team for inviting us. And we can save time for questions.
Thank you so very much. That was a lot of incredible information and very valuable. So thank you for that presentation. I'm going to ask one quick question, and then Letitia Beal will have some questions that have either been sent in or that we have, and want to remind those that are on the Zoom Live, feel free to put questions in the chat and we'll try to get those addressed before we conclude the presentation. I wonder if we can open up the screen so that we can see both of our presenters, and I'm a little technologically challenged. There we go. All right. So I just had a question, and I didn't mention at the beginning of this presentation, I represent Legislative District 25 as the state senator, serving alongside Delegate Daryl Barnes, Delegate Nick Charles, and Delegate Karen Tolles. Together, we represent about 130,000 constituents of various backgrounds and socioeconomic different places on the spectrum. And so wondering if you can help me understand just the relationship between your office and the state. I know it's the Maryland Cash Campaign, but how do our constituents that go as far south as Clinton access the kinds of services that you described? If either of you could help with that.
Sure. That's a great question. I can certainly speak to that. So while Cash is headquartered in Baltimore, we're able to have a statewide footprint and impact by working with partner agencies. These are other like-minded or like-missioned nonprofits, universities, faith-based organizations, governmental agencies, pretty much anybody who has an interest and I guess capacity as well to provide these services or extend them to their constituents. As far as the tax prep goes, that's specifically something that in PG County, we work with our partners to be able to bring that to your specific location. Our financial coaching, financial planning, and benefit screening, all of those other in-house programs are available to anybody, regardless of where you live, and you're able to access those online. So, one of the crazy things about the pandemic is it's actually allowed us to reach more people by forcing us to transition to more virtual and more remote work. So that is sort of the long and short of it. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely nailed it. Thank you so much. Letitia, do we have any questions that have come in that you want to?
Yes. To piggyback on what you just answered, you say that you have a footprint over the whole state of Maryland, but what is your real capacity? Like, how many people can you touch? Are people waiting a month or so to actually get in to get their taxes done, or is it something the next day?
Yeah, those are great questions. So I should backtrack for a moment, say Cash Campaign runs a number of sites out of Baltimore City in-house. So we control everything. We control how long it takes for an appointment to happen, how far in advance the appointments are opened up so people can schedule it. And things like that are things that we have control over. When it comes to our partners that are operating throughout the state, we give them the discretion to decide how that works for them. Typically, I want to say 2 weeks is how far ahead the appointments open, but I think it really depends on each site's capacity. And that's really hard to say, Letitia, honestly. I think that's a great question. And it's really hard to say because our partners are just not a monolith. A lot of them are operating on shoestring budgets or are focused on things like eviction prevention and other very pressing issues for their constituents. And so the tax prep can kind of take a little bit longer, whereas other agencies completely pivot and all they're dedicated to is offering tax prep. So it really runs the gamut. My best advice is to just be patient, keep trying to make that appointment because it is well worth the time to get the service.
Okay, and would they come to Cash first, and Cash would say, okay, you're in Prince George's County and Clinton, we have a partner on Woodyard Road, you can go there. Is that how that works?
I don't think so. I think the best bet would be for folks to check our website, and then so it's still kind of a work in progress right now. But as soon as we can, we're going to have our statewide list of partners listed on our website, and that's going to be more or less like an Excel spreadsheet, and you'll have this partner it'll be county first. So you'll be able to quickly filter out the counties that you do not want to know about. So for PG residents, they'll be able to see the 4 or 5 sites that are operating in PG County, each of their locations, each of their hours and days of operations. and also how to go about making an appointment, whether you have to email, whether you have to fill out a form, whether you have to call, whatever the case may be. We're, like I said, that's still kind of a work in progress, but we anticipate having it up very soon. So I would not encourage people to come all the way out to Cache, though it could be a nice drive, and Baltimore is pretty cool too. But I think in the interest of saving people time and gas, check our website and just keep checking back until that information is updated. It should be anytime now.
Okay, I'm sorry. We are in a virtual world. So when I say come, not necessarily drive to Baltimore.
Okay.
Reach out. I'm sorry.
No, of course. My bad.
I'll make sure that we send our list of statewide partners. Once it's made available, I'll send it to your office so that you can share it with
That's awesome. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
We can do
Thanks
that.
a lot. So with the tax preparation, you said $60,000 is the max. Is that the same scenario for all services that Cache provides?
No, and that's a really good question. I believe that is our only income threshold for any of our programs. I think everything else is open to anybody regardless of their income. Yeah.
We did hear the governor talking about the child tax credit during his state address. And he was saying about same thing you said about how it could be an influx of money for the family, et cetera. From your personal experience, how much are you really seeing coming back or the family getting?
Thousands and thousands of dollars each time, particularly during the pandemic, because the amounts and the eligibility requirements were increased and the requirements were relaxed. And so more people were eligible for it and it was now more generous. And so, I've seen people I don't have children. So for me, I'm just like, even $1,000, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's so great. But I've seen people walk away with I wouldn't say tens of thousands, but $10,000 sometimes, especially if they get the dual child tax credit and earned income tax credit. That really, especially because they're refundable, it just really makes a huge impact, thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and I'll just add for the child tax credit, families can get up to $500 for each dependent. So that's a nice extra income coming in. Okay,
and that's on the back end also. That's not like throughout the year. That's once you file your taxes, that's money that.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. There's potential or talk about legislation for educating people, financial education, financial literacy in the school systems. What are your thoughts about that?
So for Cache, and that's a big thing this session. We have a commission, Financial Education and Capability Commission, and where our co-chairs are Delegate Stein and Senator Klossmeyer. We bring all of those issues to our commission, and we let the members of our commission decide whether we will support legislation that mandates financial education. We've been hearing like financial literacy, which we hate the word financial literacy, by the way. And Cache, typically we stay out of those types of legislation. We don't necessarily oppose them, but we're not on the record supporting them either. Most of the time we're talking to the legislators and seeing how we can work some things out. I know I was in Annapolis on Thursday and we had a legislator come to us about a financial literacy bill. And I'm like, first, change the name. And second, I actually told him, like, let's bring this bill to the commission and see how we can work things out. We never want to like mandate things, but we do at the same time, we know it's important for students and families to know the importance of financial education. So again, on the record, Cache, we don't usually support financial literacy legislation.
So just to jump in, it's financial education, financial empowerment.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes,
that's right.
Because saying financial literacy, like, it kind of implies that people who do not know a lot about financial education are illiterate, and that's not the case at all. It's just that they need to know more about the resources and the different things to make choices that's best for their families.
Right. It's
we always say the L word.
Yeah, it's often. I feel like it's often the contrary. Like the people who have the least funds are the most expert in managing their funds. Believe it or not, they just need more money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They just need more money for sure.
Okay. Did you have any more, Ms. Beal?
I do. So this is a specific, I guess, tax question. At what point do parents not have to claim their children? Once the children start working, or now a lot of kids are starting businesses, et cetera, is it dangerous to now still claim them, or do you continue to claim them? And
So I have to apologize. All I can tell you is it depends. That is our industry standard. Is that kind of advice is very subjective and very individualized. There are certainly guidelines that we have from the IRS, but so much of that depends on if the child is in school, pursuing college, if they are living at home still. There's a lot of different things that go into that determination. And so your best bet for anyone who's curious about if they can still claim their child is to speak with a professional and or reference IRS materials but I really I think they should speak to a professional for that. Sorry, I can't give
No, that's fair. That's fair. I'm not roping myself in on this recording. That's all we have. Does anybody in the audience have any questions?
If you want to check in the chat, let's see if anyone.
There's nothing in the chat right
now. Okay.
And I'll also flag that I've been dropping the different links that we've talked about in the chat. So please make sure you have a chance to copy those links and save them.
You're right, Tania. There's nothing in the chat. There's no questions in the chat. There's plenty in the chat.
Let me just ask this question again, just kind of getting back to how best, and I do note that you have just incredible resources on your website and love the webinars and things that people can do remotely. Curious as to, back to the financial education, at what age do you all find that it's best to interact with youth? Like, are we working with elementary students? Are we working with middle school? Because we have a lot of nonprofits that work with youth groups and young people on academic preparation, but I'm wondering if there's some external interactions that might be good.
I can take that unless Tania wants to.
You can, and then I'll add on.
Okay, great. So our approach is to provide financial education materials to anybody who requests it. And so if we're working with an elementary school, we'll try to find age appropriate materials for them. And we do get requests from organizations like elementary schools and organizations serving younger populations. I think so this is off the record, this is just my own personal thoughts here. We had a program where we were working with the Youth Works organization in Baltimore City, and we had several youth workers kind of working for Cash in-house, and they were trained in financial education topics that were relevant for their age group. So that's, I think, 14 to 18 or something around that. And then they were dispatched to go teach all of the city's core of youth workers. And I just recently found out that Baltimore has one of the largest youth works programs nationwide. And so that age, I think, we've gotten nothing but really exceptionally positive feedback from that program. And it seems like teens are really great. Like they, especially ones that are getting their first jobs, like youth workers, they have paychecks, they have to understand how taxes work a little bit. They have to understand how things like direct deposit, or just how do you get that money? How do you access it? How do you make payments? Things like that. That's a prime age to get them, but it's really never too early to start also.
Yeah, Megan, and I would say it definitely depends. I know, for example, Cash, we are the nonprofit administrator for Baltimore City's Guaranteed Income Pilot, and our participants are between the ages of 18 and 24 years old. And one of the things that we also make available to them is financial education. It's actually one of the things that they requested early on in the
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, how can I save money? How can I save for my child's college funds? So we definitely see with different age groups. It really depends.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I was just thinking as you both were sharing about my first employment experience a few years back. But what I was thinking about is when I first got quoted my hourly rate and looked at how many hours I worked, how surprised I was when I got that first check, and it didn't add up. I was doing the math and adding it up, and I realized that I hadn't considered the withholdings and all of those things. So I think, the services that you all are providing are really important. And while many of these conversations happen in households, it's so important to have valuable resources in the community to connect with our citizens, no matter what age. Some people get things through, family members, through colleagues or coworkers. members of a church or a nonprofit where you're doing volunteer work, and some people just don't get access to that information. So we're very fortunate to have you all. My last, I guess, question, and I know you kind of talked a little bit about the advocacy and how people can join your advocacy efforts, but is there anything else that you would like to ask people to do to support the work that you're doing across the state?
Definitely. We're always in Annapolis. Talk to your legislators. Talk to me. I can share our full legislative agenda. I know we have some bill hearings coming up around unemployment insurance. We're a part of Renters United Maryland, where we support legislation around the evictions crisis. So there's a lot, and we always need our community voices. So sign up for our advocacy newsletters, contact me. I'll make sure that everyone has my contact information. And just remember that it takes all of us, all Marylanders, all families, in order to truly make an impact.
Okay. Any closing remarks for you, Megan?
Sure. I was just going to say that I don't know the exact number, but I know that every year there are hundreds of thousands of Marylanders specifically who are qualified and eligible for the earned income tax credit, who are not going to file their taxes and getting that money. And they're leaving all of that money on the table. And we know both from, experience meeting people who have received it and just statistically speaking, that the money makes a huge, tremendous impact in their lives. And so if you can just help us, by doing your part of spreading the word about our service so that folks are going out there, they're considering filing their returns, even if they may not have a filing requirement, so that they can access things like the earned income credit.
Well, thank you both so much. Megan, Tonea, thank you both for being here this morning. What valuable information from the Maryland Cash Campaign. We are going to make sure that this information is available through the official Melanie G. Griffith YouTube page at Senator Melanie G. Griffith, for those of you that search that way. We will absolutely be sharing this information and hope that the volume of your calls goes up as a result of your having been here this morning and helping us to connect information with the community. This is going to conclude our February 4th installation of Let's Talk. We also have information on our page about healthy eating on a budget. We have information about jobs, job seeking, avoiding cyber scams and schemes. We have information about funerals, wills, estates. So please visit that YouTube page and get valuable information for you. And if you don't need it, pass it along to someone you know. Guarantee you someone in your family or network can benefit from the information that we've gotten today from the Maryland Cash Campaign and in our previous series. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Let's Talk.
Thank you.